at the Daily Dope Show. Now I got me a new rocking chair, new computer chair, so now I can move around without making a bunch of squeaky noises. And I'm gonna get back into this Obama interview with Rolling Stone. The interview was with Souza. You might have seen the video I just put out. The last video I did was about this interview that Obama had, and in that video I just kind of reacted to a couple things I might have heard about of the interview without actually reading it. And now I'm not going to go through the whole interview and talk about all the other things that Obama touched on, like the Trump win and the future of the Democratic Party. His critique was kind of iffy on that, I'll say. Maybe I'll cover a little bit about it here. But there was a little bit more material than I actually originally thought going in, so I'm going to go ahead and cover some of that. Hold on one second here. Alright, yeah, lighting is just way too in my face. Alright, well, yeah, like I said, there was more material than I thought there would be on marijuana. And the interviewer actually kind of tried to hold his feet to the fire. I wish I could actually do a video of the video. I didn't see the video, but you'll see at the end, there's an exchange where it almost seems like Obama just cuts him off and just kind of like, hey man, just kind of don't go there or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. I'll have a lot to say about this, so let's just get into it. So Souza, Rolling Stone writer, he's interviewed Obama several times, had dinner with him in 2008, and blah blah blah. I'll let him tell you. So he says Rolling Stone has had a wonderful relationship with Obama over the years. I first met him at the beginning of his 2008 campaign when he came up to my office for dinner. We backed him, Rolling Stone, backed him when he was up and when he was down. He viewed Rolling Stone readers as part of his base. A year ago, we went to Alaska with him and toured the melting glaciers. With extraordinary pride, we watched him ride the wave of history. I had many more questions for him than time had allowed. Why had no one responsible for the Wall Street frauds, which cost millions of people to lose their homes, their savings, or jobs, been sent to jail? That's because Obama was one of the biggest Wall Street presidents ever. He had the most money from Wall Street in 2012. In 2008, he had quite a bit. He had more money from Wall Street than I'm not positive if he had more than who was that back then. You know, I can't even think of his name. McCain. All right, yeah, that guy's old. But anyway, that's why that didn't happen, because if you remember, WikiLeaks just came out about a month ago with a story talking about how, it wasn't a story, but it was documents showing how Obama, his whole cabinet was picked by the banksters that caused the crash. And of course they appoint not only bankers to his cabinet, and he picked all the people on that list that they handed him, just about, and they all got the positions that, you know, that they felt like that Obama should give them. Like, for example, Eric Holder, Attorney General. Eric Holder was a guy that would defend people accused of crimes that were Wall Street people. You know, it's kind of like that. He was their boy, so that was just one example. So that's why that didn't happen. Likewise, why did the people who missiled America into the Iraq War also got scot-free, got to go? Might be talking about the Cheney regime, or, you know, all the media and the people in the administration ginned up stovepiped intelligence, where basically they say what they want to find the end result, and then they tell the people in the field, the agents in the field or whatever, that, you know, come back with evidence that supports this or whatever. Now, none of these people got any kind of trouble or whatever. The war criminals that lied us into the wars. Good point. Well, the reason is they're all corrupt. Would the rise of Donald Trump have been possible had any of that had been held accountable? You know, the Republicans, the regime. And then what is his sense of accomplishment in preserving so many millions of acres of national lands? Well, it's probably erased by his sense of not accomplishment by all the fracking and all tools in the shed approach that he did on energy, to where now we are fracking and pipelining this country like it's a third world country. And what did it take to finally put climate change at the top of his agenda? Souza, have you paid any attention at all? What do you mean about climate change? You know, remember when you toured Alaska? Remember when Obama said that Shell could drill up there and put a drilling platform up there? So I don't know what you're talking about with this climate change thing, but Obama's not your guy. He don't even really talk that tough about it, you know? So the first question that he asked is of Obama. So what do you think of the future of the Democratic Party? A month ago, everybody was convinced that the GOP was in its final death throes. Now you've got three branches of government in the hands of one party. You've got voter suppression, which is guaranteed to continue. You've got redistricting, all these things. Where's the Democratic Party going? This seems to be a hard right turn. Obama says, well, but it's not a hard right turn. Take a look at. And then he interrupts him again and says, if you control three branches of government and you've got the Supreme Court, and Obama's back to answering it. So he says, if you survey the American people, including Trump voters, they're in favor of higher minimum wage. They're in favor of larger numbers of decriminalizing marijuana. I think, are increasingly and with shocking speed accepting of the need to treat LGBT community with respect. They're hugely suspicious of Wall Street, hugely suspicious of the establishment. Part of what Trump did, as well as Bernie, was to run against the establishment. Now, the irony, of course, is one that would think Trump would be considered part of the establishment and not a genuine outsider like Bernie was. So this doesn't seem to be a moment in which there is a huge turn to the right. Now, I have a few problems with that, Obama. The first problem is with the question. He's talking about the voter suppression. Now, I'm guessing that was the stuff that was allowed because the Civil Rights Act was allowed to expire, and then the states that had those shitty laws that discriminated against minorities, mainly blacks, could write laws that would restrict voting again without any problem from the federal government. All that's fine and dandy, Obama, but Hillary didn't lose those states because of voter suppression. Those states weren't going to vote for Hillary anyway. You're talking about the Mississippis and the, Alabamas of the world. They never vote for a Democrat, especially Hillary Clinton. Come on. Please. Anyway, so the question was framed kind of whack. And then Obama's talking about how, well, if you survey the American people, then you'll find out that they're a lot more liberal than these people that you think, than these people that run the government now. Well, let's just look at what they run. The Republicans now run the federal government, every branch. They're about to staff the Supreme Court. They got the Senate, they got the House. They got majorities in both, enough majorities to do a lot of damage with. They got governors' mansions in the, when the DNC was being run by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who before that worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2008. Well, all she did from the time she started working in 2009 till 2016 was basically to try to get Hillary Clinton elected in 2016. So she ignored all the, the fights on the ground for representatives and senators and governors' mansions and state reps and all the way down to city council members and student board. We don't got no representation. The Democrats, I should say, I don't know about we, but yeah, because usually the Democrats used to be the party for the people to have their voice heard, and the Republicans were generally the party of the the rich and the corporations and the banks. Now it's basically like the Democrats are the same thing as the Republicans. So Obama, if the future of the Democratic Party depends on what you just said here, it's not gonna. You're talking about a revolution. You're talking about people just giving up on the government trying to do anything and just doing it themselves, or maybe doing away with this two-party system or something. Something's got to be changed, or the Democratic Party's basically gonna fucking die. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And when it comes to decriminalizing marijuana, fucking legalizing, decriminalizing goes without saying. decriminalizing is like everybody's for that. If you really just break it down, if you're asking people on the street, usually the poll is for legalizing marijuana, not decriminalizing. So I don't, that's just the president parsing words and making statements that don't really mean anything. But in fact, the 60% or more of Americans are for legalization of marijuana. They want that shit regulated so they can go buy that shit at the store without any worries about getting arrested. You want to talk about outsiders? Trump ain't no outsider. Just look at who he's staffing his cabinet with. That's all the same old freaking dusty ass old Republican bullshit that you would have seen if anybody else would have, if it would have been Rubio or Cruz or Chris Christie or any of those other guys that Trump annihilated in the primaries. They would have picked the same ilk of people, or even in some cases worse, or some cases not as bad. But I mean, it would have been the same, crusty old establishment Republicans that are the revolving door Republicans is what I call them. Half of them are lobbyists that were representatives, and then they went back to lobbying, and then they went back to representing, and it's called public service for a reason. You're supposed to be serving the public, not yourself. So Trump's he ain't no outsider. He's no maverick. He's no revolutionary kind of a figure. He's not going to stop anything that, that any other Republican, he's going to accelerate a lot of stuff that you're not going to like. But the bottom line, Obama, is, when you got a person that's the president that feels that way, about marijuana, then you should be able to move the ball forward. You should be able to help with the effort. And we'll get into that later on in a later question. All right, so the next question is, you can buy marijuana legally on the entire West Coast. So why are we still waging the war on drugs? Is it a colossal failure? It is a colossal failure. Why are we still dancing around the subject and making marijuana equivalent to a Schedule I drug? Here's Obama's answer. Look, I've been clear about my belief that we should try to discourage substance abuse. That's his answer. I mean, that's the beginning of his answer, and that is terrifying. He's talking about marijuana, man. It's fucking marijuana, all right? You can talk all you want about discouraging substance abuse, but we're talking about just marijuana here, all right? His question was, why is marijuana on Schedule I? Is that to discourage substance abuse? That doesn't seem to make sense. Anyhow, I could go on that for hours. But anyway, he goes on. And I am not somebody who believes that legalization is a panacea. Which means if you legalize marijuana, then, there goes the cat's out of the bag. Now we're going to legalize everything. And then he says, but I do believe that treating this as a public health issue the same way we do cigarettes or alcohol is a much smarter way to deal with it. Okay, that's cool. Typically, although marijuana has never been known to kill anybody like tobacco and cigarettes, or tobacco and alcohol. So maybe it shouldn't even be treated with that much care or caution, I guess you would call it. Typically how these classifications are changed are not done by presidential edict, but are done either legislatively or through the DEA. We've tried that shit, and we're doing it locally on a legislative level. A president is just somebody, and you're talking about moving the ball forward. Now you got a president in there that's not all for legalization. It's going to be really hard for local level people to move the ball forward. But when you're president and you're for legalization, or maybe you are, maybe you aren't, don't sound like you are, that first sentence. If you're for not arresting people for marijuana, for example, let's just put it that way, then maybe you should, as president, there is things that you can do. There's many things that you can do. And you can go on some kind of a campaign for it, That's not unpopular. A lot of presidents have done that and gotten a lot of shit done. So just sitting back on the sidelines going, okay, I'm not going to do anything to stop these people that want to try to legalize it. That's okay, but, that's better than a lot of Republicans would do. But if we have the power, the people have the power, which with Obama, apparently we don't. Obama's not for the people. He's that Wall Street guy that I told you about, right? And, the Pete Souza, he kind of laughs. He laughs at that, and he said, what about you? Are you gonna get on the cutting edge? The DEA, oh, that's because Obama says the DEA, whose job it is historically to enforce drug laws, is not always going to be on the cutting edge of these issues. That's why he laughed at that. Of course, the DEA ain't going to be on no cutting edge of legalizing marijuana because that's half of their job, right? Just like the drug cartels in Mexico didn't want to see marijuana legalized in America either. At one time that was 60% of their revenue. That's why the one guy, the guy that keeps escaping or whatever, that guy chops people's heads off by the thousands. And you know, every time you hear a prohibitionist say that they don't want to have marijuana shops in their neighborhood, just remind them that you don't have a marijuana shop in your neighborhood, but somewhere down in Mexico or on the border, in one of those border towns, somebody just got their head cut off over some marijuana. So I guess you just have zero compassion. All right, where are we at here? Okay, he laughs about that. What about you? Are you going to get on the cutting edge? Because, I mean, he's offering Obama an out here. He's like, dude, you ain't doing shit. You are the most powerful person in the world. You can do something. You can recommend something or tell, you know, removing it from the schedule altogether seems like something the president could do on executive order. I don't know, maybe not, but it just doesn't seem logical that the president can't, with a stroke of a pen, at least do that. And then be like, oh, let the states decide, or we're done here. And his answer is, look, I am now very much in lame duck status. When did you figure that out? When the TPP fell off the table because of Trump getting elected? You've been in lame duck status for a long time, President Obama, because you haven't done shit. You've been sitting there just like kowtowing to the corporate, the donors. What are you still caring about the donors for? You're about to be out the door. Stumping for Hillary, wasting taxpayer dollars, flying around the country, stumping for Hillary fucking Clinton. That's sad, man. So he says, and I have the opportunity as a private citizen to describe where I think we need to go. But in light of these referenda passing, including in California, I've already said, and I think I've mentioned on Bill Maher's show, when he asked me about the same issue, that it is untenable over the long term for the Justice Department or the DA to be enforcing a patchwork of laws, where something that's legal in one state could get you a 20-year prison sentence in another. So this is a debate that is now ripe, much in the way that we ended up making progress on same-sex marriage. It's not like that at all. It's not even close to that. Has anybody ever got arrested and thrown in prison for fucking trying to marry somebody else that was the same sex as them? No. Has anybody ever gotten shot by a police officer and then they found out he had a bag of weed and then, oh, he had weed? And that just made it seem okay that they shot the guy. Did that happen to any gay people just because they were gay? Maybe, but I don't have anything against the gay rights movement, so don't think I'm sitting here lambasting that. I'm just saying he just made such a false comparison, a false equivalent there. It's one that's it's commonly made that the people in the marijuana legalization struggle are going through the same stuff that the LGBT community went through for the last 40 years or whatever. No, we haven't. We've been going through the same fucking struggle. You want to talk about discrimination? If you smoke marijuana, you get discriminated. You can't get a job because you'll fail a piss test. They find out you got high, you get fired. If you get fucking injured on the job, you don't get any insurance, and you got to pay for that out of your pocket. That could be a real bad thing. There's so much. I could go down a list and just nail this to the ground. Like, there's no way you can compare the two. No, like I said, nobody's ever gotten arrested because they tried to marry somebody that was the same sex as them. So give me a fucking break, Obama. That's a slap in the face saying shit like that. And the Supreme Court's never going to get a case in front of them that says, hey, marijuana, should it be legal? It's just not going to happen. I can't imagine a situation where it would, because Supreme Court cases, generally they pick the ones that they think are hot button issues of the day. They don't, they're not going to ignore them. But they've traditionally ignored marijuana and other drug cases and just let them die. It's just the way it is at the Supreme Court. You don't get every case heard or ruled on or an opinion made about. So Obama's just blowing smoke up our asses. there's something to this whole states being laboratories of democracy and the evolutionary approach. You can now have about a fifth of the country where this is legal. You now have about a fifth of the country where this is legal. No, you don't. You have over half. You're talking about recreational marijuana, maybe. Maybe that's true. That's just California alone is a fifth of the country or more. I mean, that's a lot of people. That you're going to tell, what, you think that Jeff Sessions is going to tell California to put down the pipe, put down your bongs, we're coming to seize your fucking plants? Yeah, try that shit in the gold, in the green, in the emerald triangle. Good luck, man. Good luck with all that. Anyway, the next question. So you got up there and said legalize same-sex marriage, and you pushed it right over the edge. He's trying to trick Obama. He's trying to be like, oh, because you were for it and you pushed for it and said nice things about it, that's what propelled it up into the situation where it went over the edge and now it's legal in all 50 states. Yeah, be careful, Obama. And here's his answer. Well, no, I don't think that's how it works. If you will recall, what happened was, first, very systematically, I changed laws around hospital visitation for people who were same-sex partners, and I assigned the Pentagon to do a study on get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which then got the buy-in of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we were then able to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. When we then filed a brief on Proposition 8 in California, after that, a lot of groundwork was laid, and then I took a position. So, wow, he did all that shit before he even took a position. That's pretty like gun to your head shit, man. But I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I think he had pro-gay rhetoric going into 2008 election. I mean, back then it was still really taboo subject, and people were more talking about same-sex unions and legalizing that, or make the benefits thing for spouses of dead veterans or whatever, like anything that had to do with that. If somebody was with a live-in partner for 30 years and then they died and that was their dependent and they were dependent on that person, I think that's where the debate was there. Like, well, we shouldn't just leave these people out in the cold. Rather no, the government should just take all the money that person left when they died and of course not give it to anybody because fuck, that's cruel. And back then, that was where the conversation was. Nowadays, we look at those days and was like, that was only fucking 8 years ago or now 16 years ago. So, all right, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. So he's asking him about the same-sex marriage push, and Obama said he did all these little setup things, and then he pushed the button on, hey, I'm for it. I took a position. So we're in the groundwork stage of the marijuana thing? That's the next question, basically. It just says, so we're in the groundwork stage. But that's basically what he's saying. He's like, he let him in with well, so how did you help with the same-sex marriage? And then Obama explained it. And then he's like, oh, so it sounds like after what you've been doing lately with marijuana, we must be in the groundwork stage. Hey, kid, Obama's got like 1 more month before he's out the door. There ain't no groundwork stage. He's either going to do a Hail Mary or he's not, all right? And I don't think he's gonna. All indications indicate no, he's not. And the answer to the groundwork stage question is, one of the things that I think is important for progressives to do when we're in a reflective mode after an election like this is, we can't have it both ways. We can't say, why aren't you reaching out to folks who voted against us? And by the way, why aren't you maximizing getting 100% for the things that those of us, who are already progressive and living on the coast think should be done right away? Man, what? You've been president for 8 fucking years, man. We ain't asking you to do something right away. We're asking you to acknowledge that more than half the country wants marijuana legalized. More than half the country's medical marijuana. By your numbers, a fifth of the country is recreational legal. So what's the fucking big deal? You're acting like we are asking for too much? That's what that sounded like. Why aren't we reaching out to the folks who voted against us? We don't have to. They want to legalize marijuana too. By the way, why aren't you maximizing getting 100% for the things that those of us who, are already progressive and voted for you and living on the coasts? What the fuck does that have to do with it? They live on the coast, so they're more eager to have shit done. California's all right. They just fucking legalize marijuana on their own. They don't need you. I mean, it'd be nice to have that final condolence. Oh, we don't got to worry about the feds no more because Obama just kicked it off schedule, kicked it down to the ATF, and now it's the ATFC for cannabis and hemp or something. What about hemp? Hemp is forgotten in this conversation, and it's forgotten in the conversation of those states that legalize on the 8th. What in the fuck is going on with hemp? There's more conversation to be had about hemp than cannabis or marijuana all day. And it don't even get you high. Bingo. We could talk about all the things you can do with hemp all day. And it's not sexy. No one wants to talk about that. You know what's sexy? Talking about making Obama make you feel like you're asking for too much. When you say, hey, why can't you fucking, throw that Hail Mary, bitch? What the fuck are you waiting for? You got like a couple weeks to go before you pack up and go. You got people going to, letting people out for nonviolent drug offenses and reducing sentences and shit. That's all fine and dandy. But what about the people still going in? If you know what attrition is, that attrition means you kick people out so more people can come in. When you have an unfair sentencing system that keeps people in prison for decades, you either have to build more prisons or your attrition has to work some other way. You have to kick people out quicker or bring people in slower. And by all measures, the people coming in slower is happening naturally on its own. And of course, the marijuana shift is definitely helping that out. But man, you got to stop people from going in. That's all you got to do. That's it. That was another kick in the ass from Obama. The point in politics, the point is that politics in a big, diverse country like this requires us to move the ball forward, not in one long Hail Mary to the end zone, but systematically make progress. I'm so sick of this shit. That's why we didn't want to vote for Hillary. If you were a Democratic voter in the primaries, you wanted Bernie Sanders. Because he wasn't for all this incremental change bullshit. He was for making shit happen. He was for fucking putting the shit on the floor and have the debate, at least. Put it to a fucking vote. Unbelievable. Next question. You can now buy marijuana legally on the entire West Coast, so why are we still waging the war on drugs as colossal failure? Wait, we already did that. Sorry. I guess I'm done with that garbage. Man. I voted for Obama in 2008. I voted for Obama in 2012 just cause on a lesser of two evils kind of thing. In 2008, it was more like, hey, this guy is talking about hope and change. I'm always listening for those bird whistles on, hey, this is the guy that's going to help legalize marijuana. There's a lot a president can do. Believe it. I mean, nothing really happens without a president doing it, right? Like, I mean, Obamacare is not the best thing in the world, but it's something. We got rid of that pre-existing condition bullshit. Insurance companies are raking us over the coals. That whole thing was their deal. They're the donors behind that, or the banks that fucking invest in them, or whatever the case may be. Obama, you've been a lame duck since the fucking day you got in there. I mean, here's a guy who gets a Nobel Peace Prize and then expands the fucking bombing campaign from 2 countries to 7. Here's a guy that just had the chance to move the ball forward on so many things. And he caved to the Republicans every fucking time. I don't know. He's not my favorite president.